Hi everyone, I'm just going to give people a couple of minutes and then we'll start today. Hi everyone, so today, like all Thursday lessons, are going to be the answers for the questions that we've sent you. We're also going to go through the Slido and answer any questions you have there. So today shouldn't be too long a lesson because for the first lesson we haven't set you too many questions, but as the weeks go on it will get longer and longer. Okay, so let's go to our REPLs and have a look at the code. So I know some REPL is new to some people, so I'll just show you a little bit about how it works. So the first thing you have is, this should be the interface when you have logged into your REPL. And if you click My REPLs on the left hand side, this is where you'll have all the REPLs that you create. So if you want to create one for each lesson, it might be easier for you. So I've got lots of REPLs here. Anytime I want to create a new REPL, if you look in the top right hand corner, there's a little plus new REPL. You click that. You click the language, we're using Python, so you click that, and then this bit of text here, it just has to be unique, it has to be completely unique to anything else. You can call it what you want, and then you click create REPL, and that is it creating a brand new REPL for you. If you want to go back, you click again to the left and you click My REPLs. You also have an unnamed folder here, and that will store extra REPLs. If you've created a lot of REPLs, that's where it'll store them. So if you click into that, you can see that I've got some REPLs in there as well. If you want to, so if you're ever stuck on a question, you can click on one of your REPLs, and here at the top is your URL. So where it has @Smerza/Important Gainsborough, you can share that with other people. So I know one of the questions was, how can you, one of my colleagues joined too, but when I look at a page there's no follow button, so you don't need to follow people on REPL. You would just sorry, just having a look. So it says there's a lot of background noise. Okay, I think it's my Mac. 1 second. Okay, let's try this. Hopefully that has made it quieter. Okay, so I've just turned my my fans down, so hopefully that's a lot louder for you lot to be able to hear. But yeah, so this is your REPL. This is one of the REPLs I've created for today's session, And again, you go to my REPLs here and you'll find all your REPLs. You can click at the side here if you want to delete them, if you don't want them anymore. You can edit it. So that's kind of how it works. Right. So what I'll do is I'll firstly go through the questions we've set you, and then I will go through the questions from Slido. So hopefully you've all had a go at these. If not, you can, if you haven't had a go at them yet, you can have a go at them later on. You can copy through this and see if it works. Just seeing. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me. I'm not sure why it's quieter today, but let's have a look. Okay, so let's do the first one. So write code that prints hello world. So the first thing you have to do is write print, then you've got your brackets, then you're doing a string, so you need your double quotes, and then hello world. So once you've written your code, you can run that. And to the right, you'll see it printing out. Okay, so that was the first one. Number 2, print the numbers 1 to 5 on a single line. So we're going to use print again. And as these are numbers and not strings, we're not going to use the quote marks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll run that. And you can see it's printed 1 to 5 on a single line. Now we're going to write a script where hello and world are printed on 2 separate lines. So this is how we're going to use escaping. So we do print hello, and then you need your /n. And if you have a look, you can see the /n is a different colour to the hello and the world. So that's how you know that you've escaped. So some people sometimes put the slash the wrong way. It hasn't changed colour, so you know that's the wrong slash. So when it changes colour, it's good to go, and you can see that's on 2 different lines. Now, for number 4, we're going to write a script that prints a list of names that are tabbed on separate lines. So again, we're using our print function. Then it's a string, so we need our quotes, list of names, and then we're going to tab, so that /t is tab and /n is new line. We've got Alice, Bob, and Charlie. And if we run that, you can see that it's not tabbed them across, and that's because if we swap them round, so that what it was doing is it was tabbing it and then putting it to a new line. So this just shows you how important it is when you're doing the order of your escaping. So it needs to put it onto a new line and then it'll tab across for you. So that was just using the print function. And now we're going to look at using mathematical operators. So the first question is write code that prints the value of 2 plus 2. So you can do that, which is 4. Another way you could do it, you could have done number equals 2 plus 2, and then you can print number, and you'll get the same result. So we can copy your code, and we can use this for the next one. So we've got 5.7, 3.4 minus 5.7. If we run that, you get minus 2.3, lots of zeros and a 3. And a few people have asked, why do you why does it come out like that when we do it ourselves we'd know it'd be 2.3? And that's because of the way that the computer stores binary numbers, and we can go into that in a future lesson. We'll show you how you round up so you don't get that, but this is just your intro lesson, so we're looking at how you use these mathematical operators. So for the next one, it's asked write code that prints the value of 8 multiplied by 7. So we'll do print 8 multiplied by 7. You can space it out a little bit so it looks a bit neater. And we can run that, and it's 56. The next question, write code that prints the value of 144 divided by 12. So we do 144, the slash, which is a divide, and then by 12. We run that and we get 12.0. Number 5, write code that prints the value of the remainder of 67 divided by 12. So someone asked, how is this different from divide? So when you divide, you're just finding out how much the number 12 goes into 144 for the question below. This time we just want the remainder, and for that we use the modulus. And the modulus is the percentage sign. So we're doing 67 modulus 12. And what that does is it will divide 67 by 12, but it will just give us the remainder. So does anyone, before I print that out for number 5, what did people get for that? What did people get as the remainder for 67 modulus 12? Correct. I can see some answers come through. So yeah, let's run it and check. And you're right. So we got 7. And lastly, write code that finds the value of 20 from 4 minus 2 times 6 divided by 3 times 5. So if I just run this equation without changing it, let's see what we get. So you get minus 16, but we don't want that. We want the value of 20. So this shows that how brackets are important, because the computer will run things in the order. Like Jake said last time, it was PEMDAS. If you don't use your brackets, it's just going to do it in the order it knows how to. So we want 4 minus 2, because that'll give us 2, times 6 divided by 3, times by 5. And if we run that, we get 20. Okay, so the first lesson was a nice intro lesson for everyone. I hope you managed to get all those questions, because at the end of the 10-week course, me and Jake will ask you to send in your repls, and if everything is good, we can give you a certificate at the end. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the Slido and look for any questions people have had during the week. So Slido, you can send questions all during the week, and when say you've asked a question, you can, if you click on the reply at the bottom, me or Jake will have replied. So if you send a question, we usually check them at the end of the day. So if you're doing some of the questions and you get a bit stuck or you want a little bit of help, you can send a question here. Me and Jake will reply, and then we'll also bring them up on the Thursday lesson. So the Thursday lesson is for answers and for questions. The Tuesday lesson is where we go through all the content and give you some questions to do. Okay, so we'll go through these. When solving section B, question 2, subtracting 5.7 from 3.4, why am I getting a weird answer as 2.3, lots of zeros and a 3? So the reason you get that is because of the way computers store numbers in binary, because the computer stores everything in binary. But we will look at this at a further lesson to round it up. If I want to watch the live stream later on, will it be recorded? So straight after every live stream, they are recorded for 14 days on Twitch. If we go to Twitch and go to IHF code, And if you click videos at the top here, you will see our lessons, so that they're here for the time after the lesson. So you can, if you want to look back at anything, you can go here and they're here for 14 days. Okay, next question. Can programs created by desktop IDE be uploaded at repl.it? Yeah, so if you, Python's the language you're programming in, so if you just write it if you write it on your IDE, you can just copy and paste it into REPL, run it to make sure it works, and then that should be fine. Next one, capital letters allowed within string. Yep, a string is anything within your quotation marks. So I can show you here. And it can be capitals, it can be lowercase, it can be punctuation, it can be numbers. As long as it's within those two quotation marks, it will print it out. What is the format of floats? Do we need a print statement with them? So a float is just a data type. So like a string is a data type, an integer is a data type, a float is a data type. So if you do want to have a look at a float, you can just try it. It doesn't need any quotation marks. You just write it out like an integer and you'll see. So you could do 2.3 add 6.7 and that's using floats. What should we do when we complete the task? So once you've completed them, that's good. You're done until the next lesson. As you'll see with the weeks going on, the questions do get longer and they do get a bit harder. But yeah, if you've done them, that's fantastic. Someone's put, I really don't understand any of it. That's completely fine because it's a completely new language. If you've not done coding before, it's not going to be easy. So if you just give us a bit more information about which parts you don't understand, we should be able to help you with that. Silly question, what does tab mean? So I'll let you know first, there's never a silly question. Having started coding nearly 2 years ago myself, I ask 100 questions to Jake all the time. So if you have any questions, make sure you ask them because it's easier to make sure you get the right answer than just sitting there not showing. So tabbing, if you go back and look at this question, so tabbing is this kind of space here at the beginning. It tabs it along. How do you save the coding we did today in REPL? So at the top of REPL, you should see there's this little part that says saving or saved, and that is saving your work. And then if you go back into My REPLs, that's where your REPL will be from that day. Do we answer all the questions? Yeah, if you have time, answer all the questions, because when it comes to the end of the 10 weeks, you'll be able to send us it all. We can check them and then we can give you a certificate once you've answered them all. Doesn't Python have a keyword to define variables? So Python, you don't have to tell it. I know in other languages you have to define what kind of variable it's going to be, if it's going to be an integer or a string. In Python, you don't have to declare what kind of variable it's going to be. Can you confirm how the work completed today is saved? So again, when you use REPL, it will automatically save for you, and it will then be in the My REPL section. So this is the great part about setting up a record, an account with REPL, because it keeps all of them together. If not, when you create a REPL, it's this part that will be important. The URL is unique, so if you keep all your URLs, that's the way you can keep your code. But it's just easier if you have an account and you can just keep them all together in the My REPL section. How do you create a new REPL file to use for next week? I prefer to have a new REPL file for every week. I have an account in REPL, thanks. I'd agree. I'd say have a different REPL for each session. It's just easier. You can look back at your other weeks So what you do is you click at the top right here at new REPL, you pick the Python because that's the language you're writing in, you click create REPL, and then if you go, it'll automatically load it for you. But then if you go back into my REPLs, and you can go to the unnamed and you'll see your REPL that you've just created. So again, if you can't find it on the first page of the My REPL page, make sure you check in the unnamed folder because that is probably where it's going to be. Where are the sections? Where are the section A and section B questions? So every week we'll be posting the questions. If you go to the Twitch page, you go to home and you just scroll all the way down. They're going to be at the bottom. So when you're looking for them, you go to the home page of Twitch, you scroll down and it'll say questions, and then it'll tell you the week of the questions, and then it'll have the questions underneath for you to complete. Every week, that's where they'll be. We update them just before the Tuesday lesson, so you should always be able to find them there. Also in that section of Twitch, we have our FAQs, we have an overview of what you'll learn over the next 10 weeks with us, we have the next streams, we have some information there, so you can always look at that. So REPL's a bit confusing. How do I add someone? One of my colleagues joined too, but when I look at her page, there's no follow button, even when she invites me to her page. So you don't need to invite people to your REPL page. You don't need to add them to your REPL page. You can just share the URL with them and they'll be able to look at it. And we've got, what does the remainder of 67 divided by 12 mean? Presume this differs to the divide as the question above. So it is just using the modulus. So when we want a remainder, we use the modulus. Okay, we've got some questions. What does REPL add file button do on the top right versus new REPL? So I think they're the same thing. If you're adding a new REPL, you're just purely creating a new REPL for you to use. Why does print? So if anyone ever asks me why doesn't this work, I'll just copy it, put it into a REPL and try it out. So the great thing about coding is you can just do it as many times as you want. So we've got an invalid syntax, and it's because, and we'll learn this next lesson, you can't have a string and an integer next to each other without concatenation. But we'll be looking at that in the next week. What we do next lesson, so next lesson we're looking at comments, casting, and a few more things like that. So I get the print part, but I don't understand any of the terms like string, integer, all that sort of thing. So if you haven't watched the first lesson, it's going to be more confusing. This lesson is definitely just an answer question lesson. So I'd go back to lesson 1, which is on the Twitch page, and look at the terms, because we go through each and every term on that lesson, so you'll be able to get a better understanding. How do you live stream? Google it, it should be able to tell you. At the end of the 10 weeks, how do we send our REPLs? So we get this question quite a lot, so it's actually part of our FAQs at the bottom here. We don't need them before the 10 weeks. We'll just ask at the end, if you complete the 10 weeks with us, we'll release to you a link where you can send all your REPLs, and then we can, once we've checked them, we can give you a certificate, but we don't need them before the 10 weeks is up. So can all the information be given out as a file? I'm getting very confused as to where everything is. So the videos and the questions are on Twitch. Everything is on Twitch. The REPL is for you to use to code. So as long as you go to our Twitch page and scroll to the bottom, that's all the information you're going to need. the REPL is for you to create your code on, that's separate, but all the information to learn the lessons and complete the lessons are on Twitch. The videos are for when the 14 afterwards. You can rewatch these back as many times as you want to go through the content. Then you go to the home and scroll to the bottom, and that's where all the content is that you need. What do we need to achieve to receive a certificate at the end? So to receive this certificate, you need to have done all 10 weeks with us and have completed all the questions. And then once you've done all 10 weeks, you've done all the questions, at the end of the 10 weeks, you can send us your REPL, we can check them, and once we've checked them and verified that it's all done, we can send you a certificate. I never saw the first part of the stream, is that okay? It's up to you, but I would go back, if you want to get the most out of this course, I would make sure I would watch all the lessons and do all the questions. The lessons are on, and the lessons are on for 14 days, so you have time to catch up after they are live streamed. Okay, so add file button is shown within REPL where it shows main PY. When I add a new file there, it seems different to new REPL. Okay, so main file is where you're going to do all your coding. If you add files there, it's not the same as a new REPL. If you create code that you want to draw into your main, you can add a file, but while you're coding at the moment, I would just leave it as main PY, code in here, and then if you want a new REPL, use this button at the top right. I wouldn't add into here because it doesn't call from these additional files. It'll only call, when you press run, it'll only call from main.py. So if you want a new REPL for each lesson, I would just do plus new REPL. Can we use this for Duke of Edinburgh? So quite a few people have raised this. We are currently looking into it because it's a 10-week course, and it's been raised that I think with Duke of Edinburgh it needs to be 12 weeks, but we're not quite sure about that, so we're just looking into it at the moment. And once we have worked that out, if it can be used, we'll put the answer at the bottom in our FAQs about whether this can be used for a Duke of Edinburgh award. Okay, so I think I've answered all the questions in Slido. I'll check the chat and see if there's any more questions there, but if not, it's been quite a short lesson today because it's just our first one. We don't want people getting overwhelmed by the first lesson, but you'll see it gets you'll get to do more the more the weeks go on. Okay, so I'll just refresh this to make sure there's no more new questions. So these lessons aren't pre-recorded, we do them live, but then they can be watched for 14 days afterwards. Please can you show me how to multiply? You do the star button to multiply, but again, if you go back to lesson 1 and rewatch it, it will give you all that information. How do you get into the Slido? So if you go to sli.do, the code for every lesson is going to remain the same. It's going to be Python 2020, and then you can ask away. So how do you hide some of the code above and only run sections of it? That's commenting, and it's going to be something we get into next week, but it's by using the hash symbol. So people asking, can you go through the /n and /t? We've gone through all this in the first lesson, so I would just I just go through that video and watch it because it covers all of this. So if you've missed that first lesson, you still have the opportunity to go back and watch. And next lesson we'll be looking at commenting, we'll be looking at casting, indexing, input, and upper and lower, I think, is mostly what we'll be looking at. Okay, if I put the value of a variable, total equals 120, does it have to be above the print value statement? I'm not quite sure, so I'll just put this in my REPL. So total equals, and then if you want to get the value, you just print out the name of the variable that is storing the information, and then run that, and you'll get the value. Can I submit my task through Trinket.io because I have an account in that as opposed to REPL? I've not seen Trinket.io. Me and Jake will have a look, but if it's a very similar premise, then I'm sure there'll be no issues with that. The difference between list and tuples, we'll get to that in a couple of weeks and go through that. On REPL, what does the add file button do? So if you add a file, if later on when you want to import libraries or import modules, you can do that to have a bit of code in here and run from here. So we can look at that in later lessons. But again, this one is just an introduction lesson. Okay, so I'm getting just a few repeats questions. Okay, so if you have any more questions in between now and the Tuesday lesson, you can ask them in here and I'll be answering them. Otherwise, I would, if you've not managed to watch the first term, you can watch this first video, and in the home section and scroll down, and here are all your questions and all your FAQs, anything you need to know. Okay, so I'm just checking the live chat if there's anything where people are asking. So just to clarify, you don't need to send any REPLs until week 10. After week 10, we'll give you a link specifically to send your REPLs, but prior to that, we don't need your REPLs, so just wait until week 10 and then we will release how we will be collecting the REPLs. But prior to that, it doesn't matter. So someone asking for a list of topics, if you go to Twitch and you go down, all the information about the course is here, so you can have a look, and it states here all the things you'll be learning over the next 10 weeks. So unless I'm just waiting around to make sure we've covered all the questions that anyone has, but if not, I hope you all have a good weekend, and we shall see you on Tuesday for lesson 2. So the Thursday lesson, all we do is go through the questions and go through any questions you have. So we won't be giving you any more questions on the Thursday, we'll just be giving you questions on Tuesday to do. Why doesn't this work? So the first thing you do if something doesn't work is check out what it says in the as the error. Let's see if I can copy and paste this. So if you see here, this /n would need to be, and you also need to add your variables, but we'll look at concatenation next week and you'll understand why and how that works. Okay, cool. I don't think there's any more questions. So I will see you all next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.